Hey, welcome, my friends, to Answers with Experts. I'm excited about the session today. And as you know, Answers with Experts is a little different than many of the events you probably attended because it's really built around questions from real people just like you who've submitted their questions ahead of time. And we find experts from all over the world who want to try to answer these questions for you. So with that said, I'm eager to introduce our experts today, but I do want to cue you in on a couple things. You are always welcome to text your comments and questions to the number below. I'll be monitoring that throughout the show as well as afterwards. This is recorded. It's always live. It'll be available for at least a few months. And so if you're watching this recorded, you're still welcome to text that number with your questions. Obviously, we won't be able to answer it on this show if it's recorded, but in a future show, we'd love to hear what you have to say and what questions are on your mind. And we'll have an expert most likely answer your question. Now, I will say for today, we do have a special deal where if you go ahead and submit a question, you will receive in the mail a really great book by a famous neurologist. It's called Brain Rules. Hi there. It's called Brain Rules, and it's by Dr. Medina. This is Dr. Medina's picture right here. He's a great guy. He's super fun, exceptionally intelligent, and he's written a book about how to deal with helping your brain be as healthy as possible as you age. And so I'll send you a copy if you send in a question to the texting number that we'll show throughout this event. So without further ado, I want to introduce our VIP hostess today. Her name is Jennifer Pasternack. Hello, Jennifer. Glad you're here.
Hi, Benjamin.
She is coming to us from Northbrook, Illinois. And I could go on and on about her credentials, why she is who she is, why we have her as a VIP guest. But I will tell you one story to give you why she is definitely someone that I wanted on the show working with our expert. In the middle of COVID-19, a lot of nursing homes, assisted living, memory care communities, we're seeing their staff leave like crazy, dropping like flies, families furious. Jennifer had the opposite experience because Jennifer understands what it really takes to care for people and what it takes to care for the team that cares for people. And so in Jennifer's case, her community that she manages in Northbrook, Illinois, her team stayed. Her team was loyal. Her team was there working with the residents. The families were so committed. They brought meals every day to support the team that was staying there. So that just gives you a little bit of the level of expertise that Jennifer brings. And now, Jennifer, let's go ahead and bring on John. John is from Portugal. He's coming to us live from there. It's probably his bedtime or something over there.
Hey, take it easy. No, it's only 6 o'clock or something.
Okay. So we asked John because John, he is the only English-speaking trainer in the world of a training modality called Humanitude. The team he's part of has trained over 50,000 nurses, caregivers, physical therapists, doctors all over the world in some of the most advanced techniques in caring. And so we've asked John to be our expert today, and we're so excited you're here. He's actually trained some of our team members, and it's been an amazing experience. Thank you for the impact you've made on our residents and our team, John. So I will let you two take it from here. I'll be behind the scenes helping run videos as you two tell me when to run.
Awesome. Thank you, Benjamin. John, thank you so much. This is incredible. Where are you right now? Are you in Singapore?
I'm actually, no, I'm in Portugal, about 100 miles north of Lisbon. So by the seaside. I just went to the sea this afternoon to bring my Zen moment into me. It kind of, so I bring all the full spirit.
Oh, that's incredible. We have lakes here, no seas. So maybe that's why my Zen is off a little bit.
We can share the vibe over there.
Absolutely.
World Wide Web. Yeah. Thank you for having me. Really, really excited to be here. It's really an honor to be up here. Sorry.
Oh, that's so funny. I feel the same way about you. So it's such an honor to have you. Why were you in Singapore last week?
Well, actually, we've been invited by a hospital to go and help them to implement Humanitude on a couple of wards. Basically, they okay. So, long story short, Humanitude has been under development for over 40 years, and it's been a methodology built from the ground up. So, basically, the authors, when they started off working in caregiving, they realized that there were a few things that were off-putting. And they were quite creative to take advantage of their creativity, originality, and observation skills to come up with some new ideas, some new solutions, and try them out on the wards. And they actually worked. So they kept on going with this momentum, and 40 years later, here we are. So we actually have the benefit of enjoying from a network of people that are quite original, not to put it in any other way. Yeah. And we have a couple of techniques, and we are invited all over the world to go and share those solutions and try those solutions in different places to see what works and to see if we can help them to improve the quality of care. So we were in Singapore working with a hospital, Koelsch Hospital, and we were working mostly with geriatric wards to try to improve their quality of care using Humanitude.
That's incredible. I've seen your videos. I show my staff your videos and the incredible work you do. We've implemented a lot of that stuff here at Northbrook Inn. So thank you so much.
And that's only just a fraction of the stuff, you know.
So, absolutely. There's constant. It's always it's so individual, this disease, to everybody. So we're always seeing different things. Benjamin, why don't we start with a video and see what Marty is about?
Just these questions that we've had here brings up the question of when is it time to let go? You know, the lack of appetite, sleeping, all of those things are significant, are signifiers, I guess, of nearing the end of life, I would guess. And that brings up, why are we forcing people to eat and stay awake when it's their time to go?
Well, those are good questions, because what are those indicators, and is that really where it's at the time, or is there something else going on?
That's true. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know if I should take off the ball here. This is a very tough question, and to have the courage to bring it up, I have to give it up for this lady, for Marty, because it is really tough to talk about these things. So I'm a very casual person, quite informal, and I am fairly informal in the way I bring things up. So I'll try to be gentle. I deal with this all over the world with thousands of caregivers by now, from family setting to professional setting, and this is something that I've discussed many, many times. So sometimes I can come a bit too casual about it, but I want to tell you that I have the utmost respect to families who do this. First of all, because it takes a lot of courage to put it out, to speak up, to show yourselves. There's still a bit of a taboo, still a bit of an embarrassment about this disease affecting us as a family. My grandfather had a vascular dementia back in 2006, and that was kind of determinant to me to follow my career towards geriatrics. Geriatrics is the specialty that cares for older adults. I don't know if everybody's aware of that. So I've always focused my professional path to this, because I was personally touched by my grandfather, who at the time we even got the wrong diagnosis, if I can say it. We actually looked around for the best solutions out there, and we could not find anything that we could actually be satisfied with. We saw my grandfather becoming more and more dependent, deteriorating. And obviously this question also came to us as a family. When do you start considering palliative care? When do you start considering that all the effort you're putting into is actually causing more harm and more pain and more suffering rather than helping and support? For that, I think we have to be clear that our interventions, most of the times, if not all the times, they're actually well-intended. Okay, so most caregivers, they actually try their really best to provide the best care they can. But there is a little issue right off the gate, that is, we are not the person. Everybody is unique. Everybody cares different. Everybody has their own rituals, their own habits, their own story, their own preferences. And sometimes we are fooled by our own heart. Okay, so we put our heart out. We're really devoted. We're like, we love this person. We put it all out. But we are fooled by this because we are not them. We are not you. So at the end, we might feel that we are not doing enough and we don't have enough and we don't know how to do anymore. And we can feel frustrated, deceptive. We can feel sad with ourselves. Sometimes we can even find it difficult to connect emotionally with a person because we feel hurt. And this is something that we need to be aware, because it will compromise our decision making. So when we are thinking, sometimes we are not necessarily thinking things clear. We're thinking things with the heart. The heart is really good. It's amazing. It helps us out. But sometimes it deceives us. Who hasn't fallen in love for the wrong person, right? So sometimes, I mean, guilty as charged. So
a couple dozen times at least.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm from South Europe, so here the blood is hot. So we have to be careful with that. But yeah, so to bring it up is that when we come to a decision that like this, I tend to say that even in palliative care, there's a lot we can do. Okay, so when we think there's nothing more we can do, there's a lot that we can still do. This discussion is difficult because sometimes we might consider that this changing the level of care, because if we consider that you can improve the health status of the person, you can maintain the health status of the person, and you can accompany the person until the end, basically just to provide comfort until the end. So these are like 3 levels of care that we have in caregiving, and they're all correct. They're all right if they are at the right time with the right person. So if I say that I have a person at the end of life, for example, who every time I touch, every time I transfer, I'm going to be causing pain, I know the benefits of getting out of bed and walking and exercise and how important it is for the mental health, for the physical health, for everything. But if this is not really helping the person's well-being, this is not helping the person's health status. But also the opposite. If I'm looking out for comfort and I just do everything for the person, making sure the person is safe, quiet, comfortable enough, and I do everything for them, I'm actually increasing the dependency. I'm not necessarily helping the person on my best ways. So I'm always looking out for the best when I get the person out of bed or when I let the person stay in bed. Both of these decisions, they can be right and both can be wrong. Depends if I'm doing it to the right person. So obviously, when we come to a question like this, like when should we stop? We should always look out for the well-being of the person. How is the person after my intervention? So if I do something, if I transfer, if I feed, if I give the meds, if I sing a song, if I whatever I do with the person, in the end, leaves the person in a relaxed state, with a smile, with a relaxed muscle tone, with a smiling face, with a nice tone of voice, probably the person enjoyed it. The person benefited from that intervention. Yeah. If after it, the person is frowning, is tense, is stiff, is pushing me away, is cursing or swearing or doing something like that, we have a clear idea that it's not appropriate. It wasn't good enough. So we always have to make a decision. We either change it or we leave it. To leave it, it's very hard because we see this sometimes as a taboo discussion as well, because ethically it can be considered as a neglect. It can be considered as even on the limit actively promoting the death of the person.
Right. And there's so much guilt as a family member too, because we think necessarily, we don't think that we're doing anything wrong. You know, the longer they live, the better we feel about it. So there's just so much of that.
But we have to be aware is that, again, we're thinking ourselves. You see, like that was the first trap I mentioned. It's not the person, it's us. You know, our heart can be so deceitful. And also, if the person is well, if the person is comfortable, if the person is happy, if we actually look at the health definition, which is a subjective state of well-being, if the person is well after we do, then this is a better health than it was. If the person is worse after we do, then this is not a better health. This is a worse health. So we can come to the time to decide that it's better not to do so much. It's better not to do sometimes. But that does not mean that we don't do anything. Okay, it's not because I don't do this that I can't do something else. And to give you a concrete example, it's not because I don't give you a meal that I can't give you a treat, that I can't give you a water, that I can't give you company, that I can't give you a comfort, that I can't encourage you to reminisce about the good moments of your life, that I can promote your well-being in many ways. Humans, we take satisfaction from so many sources. Food is a very big one, of course, but it's not the only one we have. So the importance that we say when we talk about Humanitude, one of the principles we say is no forced care and no abandonment of care, which means that we will not impose anything on the person, because this imposition can cause more harm than good. But we won't quit on the person either. We would, okay, we can't do this, but we can do something else. Okay, so the idea is that I've had many good teachers in my life, and I have to praise them for that. I was young and naive when I started to learn about this, and I was pulled. My ears were pulled at the right time to tell me that things should not be seen as I was seeing them sometimes. One professor told me to be proud of my job, even when everybody died on my watch. Okay, and at the time I felt this very strong, because imagine you have a shift in a hospital, you are allocated with 5 people, and you are unfortunate enough, or I mean, in a way that you think, it just so happened that these 5 people passed away on your watch, on your shift. Like, it's normal for us to feel bad and to feel guilty and to feel frustrated and feel sad, upset. But what she meant is that even when that happens, I should be proud of what I've done, because it means that I've done everything I could to promote the well-being of those people. So what I mean is that I've seen, unfortunately or fortunately, as again, I've been in the job for 15 years now. I've seen it all, and unfortunately or fortunately, I've seen a lot of people passing away under my care. And the idea is that if I have a perception that I actually increase the quality of life of that person towards the end, I will actually take a greater benefit, a greater encouragement, a greater reward than to increase the lifespan of that person, decreasing the quality of life of that person on the process. And I've seen both. Okay, I've seen people passing away under excruciating situations because we just have enough medical knowledge to increase the lifespan for quite some time, with noradrenalines, epinephrines, CPRs, all the shebang, bruising and breaking ribs on the process, and keeping the person alive for another few hours. And you think, was that beneficial? On the other hand, I've seen people passing away quite happily and quite tranquil. And this gives us a more sense of achievement, even though the end is the same. So this agony from seeing the person leaving will always be there. Okay, we always love our family. We care for our loved ones. We don't want them to leave, really. but that's not up to us. They are not ours.
Yeah.
It's life. It's if you believe, it's God's. If you don't believe, it's nature. But ultimately, it is something that happens. So it's not up to us to control that. It's up to us to promote quality of life until the end. I can tell you a story just now that happened, that we were actually caring for a gentleman who was very combative during care. So when he's addressed to me, so basically when I approach a new setting, I ask the staff, I ask the team, what are the cases that the team is struggling with? And of course, we get very, very challenging situations. And this particular situation was that a gentleman, he was refusing to get out of bed, being very combative about it, spitting at the staff, being very, very tough. And so when I approach him, I managed to sit him on the side of the bed, and everybody was, just with that, they were really, really impressed. But after sitting at the side of the bed, I pointed to the chair. He couldn't communicate verbally anymore, but he did nod. So we went to the chair. It was the first time he left the bed, to the chair right next to him, like he just literally hopped to the chair. Everybody was already very pleased. But the next day we came back, because it's a strategy we have. We go little by little.
You could have just not come back, and they would have been, wow, he's amazing. This is great.
That was pretty good. But the next day he was willing to walk, and he walked down the corridor with us, and everybody stopped. It was really one of those moments that there's a stopwatch and everybody's just drooling and looking like, what who is that guy? Okay, right? So but it was smiling. Everybody was. It's like he was born again. Everybody was meeting him for the first time. Everybody was so happy, so excited, so encouraged by that. And the third day we come back, and the gentleman had passed away the night before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You should have seen the face of the team when we arrived in the morning. The disappointment, because the first day he sits out of bed, the second day he walks. What's going to happen today? And we get there, and he is there no more. And we have but this is the impressive part. We had the doctor. She came to us saying, and I felt so touched, because she came to say that we gave this gentleman the best end of life possible, because he was struggling in bed, fighting in bed, not really enjoying to be there or to be alive at all. And in his last day, he was happy, and everybody around was happy. It was a literal farewell party.
It was a gift. It was a gift to everybody in that case. What a story.
So just to tell you this, even when this happens, we should be proud, because if we've done our very best to promote the quality of life of the person, to be in a company, to be in the level of care, which is a company, we are still in the right level of care, as long as it's the right level of care for this person. Because if this person has potential for rehab and we just leave the person staying in bed, of course, that's not necessarily the right level of care. But if the person is not benefiting from the intervention that we're doing, we might consider to change it or to leave it. And that's a tough decision. It's an ethical decision, of course. We need to do it with the right skills, with the right competency, with the help of different people. Different people have different perspectives and different ideas and different solutions. I encourage all the time to the team and the family, try not to take these ethical decisions on your own. Not one person deciding for another person's life. It's very, very harsh. Try to come to a consensus and try to see how is the person benefiting from what you're doing. If the person stays relaxed muscle tone, relaxed face, perhaps smiling, slow breathing pattern, slow BP, blood pressure, cardiac rate, this means that the person has dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, all the happy hormones circling around. If the person is edgy, very stiff, very startled, clenching the jaw, very frowning, that's cortisol, that's adrenaline, those are not good signs. So if what we're doing is right, the person will be relaxed, tranquil, comfortable, and this is what we should be doing as much as we can to promote the quality of life that the person needs whenever We all need quality of life, no matter what age, no matter what condition, no matter what disease.
Yeah, we have a case here now where the woman is just lovely and she talks and walks, but a couple days ago she decided she's not going to eat anymore. And we put her on hospice care. And it's interesting because her daughter says that she believes that, she made the decision that she is done, even though she seems so independent to the rest of us. We try to feed her and she's like, no, I'm done. We've done MRIs and blood work and everything. And she just on her own decided that she's done. She's writing her own story in a sense.
Yeah. It is a very difficult decision, and I encourage everybody to take it with a feet on the ground, with as much consensus as you can. Do not take it lightly. Do not take it individually. But ultimately, it might be an answer on its own. We also say that care, it's not an obligation. Care is a decision. I get out of bed, I get dressed, I take showers, I eat, because I want to, and I want to because it provides me pleasure. I have pleasure with it. If I don't have a will and I don't have a benefit from what I have to do, I'm going to struggle to do it. Some of us will just refuse it, okay, because I don't want to and I get nothing out of it, so I don't want that. So some people can take this decision quite early. Some people take this decision quite late. We are there to sometimes to show that there might be a way to provide support, to provide an emotional encouragement, but ultimately it might not be up to us. Once again, it is the person's life. We can only do so much as caregivers, and to be happy and satisfied, content, proud even with what we've done, it is the key for us to keep on going as caregivers as well. So when are we proud of what we've done? When we finish providing care to that person, we look back and we see the person smiling, we see the person relaxing, enjoying, breathing calmly, enjoying the scene, perhaps taking a nap. This is a good sign. Okay, we've done a good job.
Right.
If we finish that and we look back and the person is moaning and crunching, and we don't take satisfaction from that. We actually get hurt from that. But sometimes, let me tell you this as well, because I think this is important for everybody to be aware of. Sometimes we confront ourselves with the belief that we have to do this, that our job, our duty, our role is to do no matter what, no matter who it hurts, the person or myself as a caregiver. And this is quite harmful in many ways. For caregivers, this is linked to burnout, to extreme depressions, because I'm convincing myself that I have to do this and this is the way, but I don't see results, I don't see benefit from that. And this can be very hurtful. And also for the person, many times they take no benefit from this approach. And in terms of well-being and quality of life, this is really what we should be looking at.
This is amazing. How about we move on to another question?
Of course. Yeah, please. I mean, I can. Yeah, I have the whole day now. Well, there's not much left of it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's 6 o'clock by you. It's 1 o'clock here. I got so much time, and I don't really sleep, so you may have to learn not to sleep very much. How about we go with Shira's question, Benjamin?
I work at a memory care facility. I have a question about residents who are nonverbal. They're always looking down. How to find out what they're thinking, what they're feeling, if there's something that they want to communicate, how to go about doing that. What I'm presently doing is just asking them, and most of them I can get a yes or no answer. I have to go through a laundry list of things to get there, which I don't mind, but I am an activities assistant, so I'm not allowed to spend that much time with one person. So my question is, how do we know if they're thinking, what they're thinking when their eyes closed but awake, or when they're walking, endless walking? Something must be going on in there that drives them to do these things, whether it's violent things, warm, fuzzy things, and what's going on in there, and how do we extract that? Thank you.
That's such a great question that I even see in my community. So we have our residents that go to activities every day religiously. They do everything. They're awake all day long. And then I have my residents that sit up front here in the chair and they doze all day. It doesn't matter, if it's an activity that they may enjoy. We take them in there, they come out and they go in their favorite chair and they fall asleep and their heads are down, and no amount of candy will get them out of the chair. So it's always a struggle to find something for them to do or communicate, just to give them some meaning in that few minutes.
First off is that our brain is an amazing survival organ. It's not a computer. So sometimes we think that it's quite logical. It can be very logical. It can be quite cognitive, but most of all, it's a very emotional organ, which tries to keep us alive, first things off, and then to keep us well, happy, satisfied, content as much as we can, if it's healthy. And only then, if we are alive, if we are well, only then it thinks. Okay, so basically we have to consider that sometimes we praise our intelligence very much, our reasoning very much, our cognitive skills, intellectual skills, our memory. This is something that humans are very proud of, but ultimately it's just a fraction of what our brain does. And when the brain starts to be compromised by any disease, the first things to get affected is actually the reasoning. When we are under extreme stress, extreme anxiety, we struggle to think things straight, So it does not matter.
I do that every day, no matter what.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Okay. But probably you're under pressure quite often, I'd say. So yeah. So it's normal. But what I think is that for us to really take a gamble on what's going on inside, it can be a million things. Yeah, I zone off very, very much. I don't know if it's because it's a guy thing, or I can really shut down, like I can just be staring at things, not thinking of anything. And to my wife, that comes as a surprise. Like, what do you think? I was like, absolutely nothing. Like, how'd you do that? Like,
I do that too. My daughter will talk sometimes and I have all this other stuff in my head and she goes, well, what do you think? I go, I didn't even hear you. And she was talking. I was so far zoned out. Yeah.
So we can be zoned out because we're thinking something else or because we're actually not thinking of anything. But one thing we do know is that when you want someone to focus on what is it that you want from them, or you're asking from them, or you want to focus their attention, something that it helps quite a lot is to establish eye-to-eye contact. So to really capture the gaze of the person, really look them in the eye and then talk to the person, that can be used as a tool. Like, because otherwise, if I'm talking from you without you seeing me, it can happen one thing that we call relational deafness, which is the person cannot hear you because they cannot see you. And in their head, you do not exist. You are not there. Our brain is able to block stimulus from the outside because it cannot cope with so much information, especially when it's tired, especially when it's ill. So I can be in one place and I can zone out. My brain shuts down all these filters because it cannot cope with everything that is going on. And when the brain is struggling, it creates a sense of strangeness, insecurity, fear, and it leads to defensiveness. And we defend ourselves through fight or flight mechanism. So we either fight this strangeness, these things that we don't understand because we are afraid of them, because they frustrate us, they upset us. So we go there and punch them, we break them, we push them to the floor, or we flight which is I actively run away from it. I go and hide somewhere. I go and exit seek. I go and look for a quiet place to zone out. And because zoning out is also a flight, I compare it sometimes, like us, like the ostrich just put the hand in the sand. Humans do this as well. Like, if I don't see the problem doesn't exist. Okay, so people zone out to defend themselves. So it's a defensive mechanism.
Yeah.
Why am I telling you this? Because when you approach the person on this situation, you have to be aware that the person might be extra sensitive to approach and to stimulus. So when we approach the person, we might have to have a bit extra care by doing so, following somewhat a form of a ritual that we call the sensory capture. So every human is a social animal. We learn to live with each other for many, many years. So we have rituals, and each culture has a different ritual, but generically we all have rituals to introduce ourselves, to approach each other in a safe manner, to show that we are non-threatening. So when you do that, and I'm being honest, because otherwise, if you approach the person very casually, not paying attention to this, very naturally, the person might react quite extremely to you by either pushing you away, because they are already easily startled. The person is afraid by this strangeness. They're already avoiding. They're already being defensive, and they can become very, very difficult to approach. So what we need to do is approach the person always from the front. So not from the side, not from the back, always the front. Maximum about 3/4, but you have to be within this small angle of vision. And approaching from the front, more of an arm's distance at least. Because if it's less, you're already too near. You're already too invasive on the personal space. So it can be frightening. So imagine if I just show up here, this is too much, okay? So I have to come from the front, and now I can go near. And when I go near, I'll stay between one arm's distance and about one hand apart. We talk about 15 inches. That's I should not go more than this, because then I'll go into the intimate space, unless I want to get a kiss or something like that. That's a wrong message. So
it's only on Tuesdays.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I charge for that. So we have an arm's distance, and we go as near as we can. If we get about one hand apart, and we can look the person in the eye, and the person can gaze back at us, the person is as at ease as it can with us. Okay, but when we're approaching, we have to be aware of the defensive reaction, because the person will only be comfortable to a certain distance. So we'll approach and try to adjust the distance as much as the person tolerates. So here we're already talking about a very fine tuning of observation skill to see the emotional response. When you approach the person, how is the person responding to you? How is the facial expression? How is the body movement? Okay, we need to be aware of this, because again, verbal skills can be compromised. And the person can say something that does not match what they mean. The person might struggle to express and to explain exactly how they feel. The person might not have the verbal skills anymore. So it's us to read the person. Experts talk about up to 80% of the communication comes from body movement and nonverbal expressions. So this is really our tool during care. So when I approach the person, I come as near as I can, and I establish eye-to-eye contact. Try to be as leveled as you can and as frontal as I can. And now I can start talking to the person and get good results out of it. Sometimes we see people that we would not expect to talking just by the fact that we manage to focus this person on us and what we are saying. We are talking about the brain is connected. It works with cells that are intertwined and connected and communicate with each other. But these cells, they can start be far away. They can die in the process. And what we have to do sometimes is to rebuild those pathways, those roads that link to the brain. So we sometimes have to use all our skill to kind of channel through and find the path that it's somewhere there. Sometimes it's really hard for us to find, but many times it is preserved. So after we do this, then we can start talking.
What if you have we have a resident, we have lots of residents that almost create their own protective bubble when they sit. Their heads are down, their hands are, they're hunched over. How would we approach someone whose eye level is pretty much to the floor at this point? But we know they're awake because they're mumbling or yelling at us under their breath. And we would like to establish that eye-to-eye contact to maybe get them to talk to us or feel safer or calmer. How do we get to that level?
So the way I taught you was expecting the person to be standing up, looking straight. We have different approaches if the person is sitting down, if the person is on the bed, if the person is hunching over, because all these situations are linked to slightly different rituals of approach. If the person is hunched over because of a spondylosis, a bent back or something like that, the posture, sometimes it is already like that. I can have a couple of ways. One of them is really to go really down there, or try to signal, because we have a waving signal kind of to try to bring the attention to me. But be aware that this waving signal, one, is not as effective, and two, it cannot be too sudden, too jerky, or too close to the face. Again, I'll bring it back to the beginning where the person is already in a very defensive state because the world is a strange place. And the first thing the brain does is to keep you alive and then to keep you well. Thinking is only later. So we, fully functional brains, we can actually control our emotions. We can anticipate things. We can prepare ourselves and contain ourselves. But sometimes when we're already with a cognitive deterioration, that our brain is not fully functioning, then we might struggle to do this and we'll become more reactive. So when we approach the person, we have to be aware that they're already quite defensive by norm. So we have to be approaching the person with more smoothness, with more caution, more gentleness. So you can call the person from the bottom to capture their attention. And another thing is, the further you are, the easier it is to grab the gaze, because our visual field, it's within an angle. So the further you are from me, the more I see. Okay, then of course we might have visual issues because we wear glasses. The acuity of our vision is not as good as it was when we were young. But the further out I see, the wider the perspective. So sometimes to approach a person that is like that, I have to be further back to really the person see me coming, because they're so hunched over that for them to see someone coming needs to be further out. Or I need to be close enough and call the attention, like to bring to me, or really go down there. If this is uncomfortable for me, for my back, whatnot, I can sit down with the person to promote this discussion. Mind your backs as well, because long periods of talking with a person that you have to be hunching over, it might be hard for our backs as well. So
we can get one of those gurneys with wheels that they use at car repair places, and we'll just slide around the floor and talk to people that way.
I've used that joke before. Yeah, I've used that joke before, but I didn't know if it was appropriate on the setting.
I guess we'll find out afterwards.
Yes, very
when
good.
When Benjamin yells at us.
No. I mean, I think again, I think creativity brings solutions. Sometimes solutions might sound silly, but sometimes they turn out to do great work. I'm not saying that this one is the best solution I've heard, but I did hear people bringing out ideas that, for example, there was a setting where we had a patient that could not speak the language. Because she was bilingual and she lost the English, so she could only speak the mother tongue, the native language, and most of the staff could not. So one staff had the idea of using another resident as a translator, and it did work. Even though this resident was with a mild cognitive impairment, it did do the job. So when she brought up this solution, I was like, okay, there's the ethical issue here because of privacy and whatnot. But there's also the overcoming of the communication barrier, which for humans is huge. So we really had to come to a decision, and it did work. It gave a sense of purpose to this resident, because now she's useful. Now she has a purpose. She has a role to carry out, and she has and we managed to communicate with the lady much better like that. So yeah, there are solutions that sound a bit off the book, but if they work, why not? Let's give it a try. Yeah.
So I have a question that might be a little off the book. What do you tell spouses who place their loved one in a community about relationships? We have, once people move in, they may find a girlfriend or, something like that, start a relationship that may not necessarily be sexual, but the spouse comes in and visits and they're like, well, I'm with my girlfriend. I can't talk to you right now. And, there's so many hurt faces that I see sometimes because of these situations. So, how would you talk to a spouse that's coming into a community and they see that?
Well, there's a couple things there. First of all, it's a taboo topic. We're still very protective about sexuality, and talking about openly is tough on everybody. But
leave it to me to find taboo.
Yeah, but sexuality is much more than just plain intercourse or than just relationships. Okay, we need affection, we need attachment, we need emotional bonds with people, and this is all part of our growth and human needs. Okay, so humans actually have the stronger need to feel connected, to feel attached, to feel valued, to feel the sense of belongingness, that we belong to a community, to a family, to a group, that we're recognized, we're valued, we have a purpose. So this is all something that we all need. So when we go into a new setting, think of yourselves when you go into a new home, into a new workplace, into a new reading group, you need to find your place in there. And this can be difficult because we do not necessarily know how to do it, especially if our social skills are already a bit compromised. So this is something that we need to consider. Another thing is, so this needs to be fed by someone or somehow. So basically, the person will always need to feel this attachment, because if they don't, then there's something worse going to happen down the road, which the person will feel isolated. There's a sense of solitude, which is, I live among many people, but I'm not attached to any of them, and therefore I'm alone. I'm not alone. I have thousands, hundreds, dozens of people around me, but I feel very, very lonely. So, and when humans feel very lonely, it arises something like an eclectic depression, or even failure to thrive syndrome, where people just quit to live because life has no meaning. I am nobody. Why don't I die? Okay, probably we've heard this expression many times. And it's really someone that feels that they have no purpose, they have no objective, they have no one. So there's no point of living. So obviously, to find this attachment, it is good and it's needed.
So it's healthy.
It is healthy. It's very healthy. It is
healthy for this to happen, because the wife is like, we've been married 50 years. He loves me. How can he love this woman he just found? Which in Europe, where we're from, that's okay, but here, maybe not.
They're trying to fulfill this. Another thing that we need to clarify is that, and we see that most of the relationships there, you said, it's not sexual. It's like, okay, it is. There is no intercourse, but it is sexual in a way that they have emotions, and they share meals, and they share activities, they go out on dates, stuff like that.
Right, there's hand holding, and there is kissing. We have had sexual relationships in this building. They have to be on the same cognitive level. The families have to agree. They're still adults, and we need to respect their dignity and their needs, because they're still human beings, and they have the need to feel that.
Exactly. So another thing I like to address with the families is that sometimes we struggle to find a place in our relationship with this person, or this person struggles to find a link in terms of relationship with ourselves. And why does this happen? Because the person might have something which we call mnesic age, which is the age the person has in their memory is not necessarily the same that they have in their ID. So the mnesic age and the chronological age does not necessarily match. And it is not, time is not necessarily a continuum once the memory starts to fade, which means that I might have memory of my 70s, I might have memories of my 50s, and from my 60s, it's a bit of a blur. Another thing that can happen is that sometimes I remember my 60s, sometimes I don't remember my 60s. And this is sometimes confusing for the person who's on the other side, who's fully cognitive, who understands the world. How come this happens? It's like it's as if the person is taunting me, the person is challenging me. And it's not. It's the brain just showing some malfunctioning. And the more trouble the brain goes through, the worse these links get. So the person, because the brain needs to find a reason between what's happening and what it remembers, the brain will start filling in these gaps. Like, I don't remember last week, for example, but I must have done something, right? I mean, I was alive, I'm alive today, so I've done something. What could I have done last week? So my brain will start putting things together, and maybe it will recall something that happened last year, and it will put it on that week. And for the person, this is real. This is a real memory. Okay, so if someone else confronts this person saying, no, that's what we've done last year, not last week, the person will actually feel very upset because you're challenging my memory, my reasoning, which is not already as good as it was. I'm trying my best. I found an explanation, a plausible explanation, and you deny me. So I'm going to be more defensive towards you. So shut up. I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yep.
Okay? So this can be very hurtful because we are trying to help people to remember, trying to put people into place, to bring reasoning, to bring cognition, and we actually might be hurting the person even more, and the person will push us away even more. So again, the link, the bond between us and the person might fade away, the emotional bond. So then what's going to happen? The person is going to look around and start to figuring out, who am I in here and who are these people? I don't recognize anyone. This is my home. Maybe not. Sometimes they think they're at home. Sometimes they think they're in a hotel. Sometimes think they're at working. It's the brain trying to figure things out. Like, where can I be? What could this be? And then they start looking around for people. And sometimes they identify people that look familiar. I know you from somewhere. Like, you're this and you're that. And because they're trying to link things together, like, who do I know from my past that reminds me of you, that could actually be the person who is in here? And sometimes this is like a bingo. And once in a while, I find this lady, I move into a community setting, a memory care community. I find this lady who, in my eyes, it's my wife. And this person I can connect to. To my actual wife, I cannot connect to. Like, we cannot communicate anymore. Whenever she comes to visit, there's an issue. So it can actually be tempting to turn to this affectionate old lady who's actually in the need of it as well. Who's also looking.
It's interesting because they find a companion that almost fits what their spouse looked like. So if their spouse is thin and dark hair, they find one that's kind of the same. At least here in our experience, that's what we've seen. So it's wonderful, and we encourage it.
It's the brain trying to find logic in it. It's trying to find a place as best as it can. So what do we need to do? First of all, explain this situation to the family, that the person needs this affection. The person will be very defensive about it. If we confront, they will only push us more, and they will look for someone else to fulfill this need. Okay, so what can we do? We can do a couple of things. We can mediate this relationship, which is difficult, especially if we're talking about a more conservative relationship, because it's hard to accept that now I need to share my husband with someone else. But another thing we can do is we can actually mediate the relationship between the family and actually activate dates or activate a good, positive environment, emotional environment between the people. Which sometimes it can be hard as well because of the availability of the family. We can be frustrated ourselves, tired. upset, and sometimes I'll be fully honest with you, this sometimes needs almost family therapy or a coupling therapy. So we can try our best as healthcare professionals, but from what I understand, many times we also lack competencies to mediate this family intervention. So my idea is always to, first of all, put things out in the open and explain the whole thing, because people are capable of understanding. And now it's, what are we going to do with this? There's not many solutions. We either accept it or we fight it.
Right. But before we go to one more question, but this is something that is normal and it's good and it's healthy for the folks within these communities to find relationships where they can get their, emotional needs at least met, where, the wife shouldn't feel bad. It has nothing to do with their marriage. It has to do with the resident and their heart.
And the sense of belonging, sense of belonging. I am from here. This is a good thing, because sometimes it's really hard. I know there are questions out there. There's like, okay, how do we make the person fit in this community?
Right.
Because all the time they're exit seeking or they're wanting to go home.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. Last one. How about, I know you and me, we talk a lot. This is good.
There's more sessions, right? I hope there's more sessions.
I don't know if either one of us will be invited back after this. We'll see. Benjamin, it's up to you. Pick whoever you want.
I'm sorry.
I've often wondered, being married for the extent of time we've been married and all this time together and so on over the years, and then now with dementia here, the latter part of this, just not very long ago here, she will look at me and ask me, confusing me with her daddy. She said, one time, she said, "Are you my daddy?" And I thought, how does that work? How does that work? That looking at me, we've lived here. She's, I've been taking care of her all this time, and so, but gradually, I know I've become just a friend and so forth. But even to connect me with thinking of me as her daddy seems awfully extreme in my mind for even a person in that state.
So what do we do in that situation when someone sees their spouse as a parent or calls them that?
Okay, so this is directly linked to what we were talking about Mesic age. So basically what we see is that the person, for example, if we talk about the person with Alzheimer's disease, the first thing that it happens, it's called the anterograded amnesia, which is the person will struggle to remember things from the future. So tomorrow we're going to do something. That's gone. Okay, or next week we're going to go somewhere. Okay, that's really, really hard. But with the progression of the disease, also the older memories start to fade. And usually they fade from the most recent to the oldest memories. So the first things that will fade will be from the more recent years, from the last 3, 5, 10 years. And things that are really in the past, they will stick for longer. So I will remember my childhood for quite some time. And as the progression of the disease happens, the person will be younger and younger in their head. So after 5, 6 years of diagnosis, the person will be around 40. So when we look at the person who's 40 in their head, and they have someone who comes to visit quite regularly, who the person is familiarized with, because something that the person does not lose is what we call emotional memory. It's the sensation of familiarity. To describe an emotional memory, when the music comes on the radio and you feel this nostalgia, like it's an emotional memory. Your brain remembers sensations, emotions, and it's preserved throughout the disease. So what happens is that the person, when they see someone coming in, they have a sense of familiarity. They don't know who the person is, what relationship they have, what's their story together, but there's a sense of familiarity, and there's a sense of love in this case, for sure, because there's a sense of security, of safety, of connection. I recognize you. But in my head, I'm 40, and I look at you, and you appear to be 80. So when I'm 40, an 80-year-old man who I have this emotion towards to, it's my father. Okay, 40, maybe you're already married, maybe you can already associate with the husband, but younger, okay, I'm 15, and this is my father. So for the family, sometimes this can be quite difficult because we do not want the same love as the father. And for that, we can talk about the types of love, and the Greeks were extremely good at it. Because here is not about who you are, it's about what you mean to me. Okay, it's not, I'm calling you daddy because you're the person that I love so much, that I trust so much, that I feel so safe with, that I long for to see every day, to bring me back my sense of confidence, my sense of self, because this is what parents mean to their teenagers. We fight them off, but we need this network. We need this net, this safety net. So we don't want it, but we want it. We need it. So if the person says that you're the mommy, you're the daddy, and you're not comfortable with that, you do not say no. Just say that I'm the one that loves you. What do I mean to you? Do you love me? And the person will say yes. Okay. So rather than trying to labelize it or categorize it, just try to translate it into love. Okay. I love you. Do you love me? And there's agape love. The agape love is this fulfilling love of freedom, that we are comfortable with each other, that we trust each other deeply. It's not this passionate, fiery love. It's this love of companionship, of long-term friendship. So we can have many types of love. And what I always tell to the family like this is, this person loves you in the way they can. They love you to as much or more because they need you. They rely on you every day to feel complete. But they're trying to categorize this kind of love, and they only understand by now the fatherhood love. They don't understand the romantic love, but the love is love. Okay, so
unless they have a girlfriend on the other side of the community waiting for them.
Yes and no, because when you see many times as well, they also look for something that reassures them, for someone that provides them comfort. It's also love. It's again, I think it's interesting. Search for types of love. There are quite a few, but it's something we all need as humans, is to love and feel loved. And if the person is associating us to the mother or the father, it's because they love us in the way they can. So rather than categorizing it and labeling it, just link that to the emotion. Okay, are you my daddy? I'm someone that loves you very much. Do you feel the same way? Okay, so let's enjoy each other. Okay,
right.
Why?
Okay, that's it. Could be so much more of a pure love too, rather than relationship love. Yeah.
What you want to do together? Let's do something together. Let's enjoy each other's company, and try to redirect that to an activity, to a fulfilling activity, an activity that you enjoy to do with this person. Wow, I loved when we went out for coffee, or we went out for a walk, or we saw television holding hands. Or let's not label it. I think younger generations are like this, let's not label it.
No
Let's
labels.
Enjoy it. Exactly.
That's why their futures are going to be a lot easier than ours. No labels, just go for it.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, John. I know we have a lot of questions coming in. And so, John, if you don't mind, we'd love to have you back next month, the last Wednesday of the month, to do this again.
My pleasure. Of course. There's plenty of this coming, so I hope that this is useful. I will ask for feedback as well. Like I'm always looking out for feedback to see if this was actually what people were looking out for. I try to make it as casual as I can, but if you need something more structured or a bit more obvious, please let me know. I'm here for you.
Beautiful. Right. Well, hey, audience, you're watching this, whether it's recorded or live to you, text that number with your feedback, as well as any particular questions that you might have for John on his next episode. And quick reminder to everyone, Dr. Medina, famous neurologist and he has written a book called Brain Rules. Sorry, Jennifer, you've been hidden by the book. Brain Rules for Aging Well, and it's an exceptional book. You really have got to read it. Just text this number, whether you're watching recorded, you're watching live. First 15 people, you'll get the book mailed to you. Let's get Jennifer back on here. There you go. Well, hey, thank you, everyone. Jennifer, John, you can stay here, but I'm going to thank everybody, and we will look forward to seeing you next month on the same day, Wednesday. I believe it's the 28th. Either recorded or live. And I think we're also posting an episode that John did when he was in Singapore, his second episode of kind of Experts on Location, where he talks about some things that he was doing in Singapore as he was changing culture of care in a big hospital. So thank you all again for being here with us today.